Hey, and welcome to Synaptic Soul, the podcast where science meets spirit, and we get real about the beautiful and brutal and magical mess of being human. I'm your host, Ava Marie Anderson, writer, mystic, multidimensional mischief maker. Quick disclaimer, you may hear the occasional snort, sigh, dramatic flop from my two French bulldogs, Rocky and Rambo. They're the soundtracks of my life, my soul companions, and honestly, the real stars of the show. Someday we'll dedicate a full episode to their role in my daily rituals, emotional healing, and wild spiritual life. But for now, just know that they're always close by, snoring their support. Let's dive in. Let's set the scene. You leave a conversation with somebody and you feel like you just run a marathon, but you were just sitting on a couch. Or you think about somebody out of nowhere and boom, they text you. Or maybe you haven't spoken to an ex in months, or maybe even years, and then suddenly they show up in your dream like some sort of squatter. That, my friends, is an energetic cord doing its thing. Now, depending on your flavor of spirituality, whatever it might be, you might have heard about energetic cords from like a Reiki circle or your witchy friend or that YouTube tarot reader. Or maybe you've just seen something on social media about a full moon cutting ceremony. But here's the thing. Energetic cords are not just spiritual metaphors. They're energetic imprints created through connection and attention and emotion and entanglements. And they're how we unconsciously stay plugged into people and places and even old versions of ourselves long after we think we've moved on. They're like the unseen Wi-Fi signals of the soul. And some of y'all are still using your ex's password without realizing it. But from a quantum perspective, we can look to the whole concept of quantum entanglement for this. So when two particles become entangled, they remain linked regardless of the distance between them. So what affects one affects the other. And now apply that to energy. When we deeply connect with another human through love or pain or sex or trauma, caregiving, even obsession, we form an energetic bridge. And unless we consciously unhook, that shit will linger. And your spirit might be over it, but your energy field is still answering texts from 2017. But here's where it gets juicier. The body registers the cords too. So you ever hear the phrase muscle memory? Your nervous system remembers what it felt like to be hooked into a person. That adrenaline, that dopamine, that heartbreak and safety, the manipulation. Your body gets used to that energetic loop. So when we talk about cutting cords, we're not just talking about burning some sage and calling it a day. We're talking about disrupting a neurological and quantum pattern that may have been reinforced for years. Now, not all cords are toxic. Some are sacred. Like you have cords to your children and to your animals and to your ancestors. And these cords don't drain, they nourish. They're soul bonds and spiritual lifelines, and they can span like lifetimes. But then there are the cords that feel like leeches. And these are the cords that come with dread and anxiety and self-doubt. They're created when the power is uneven, when one person projects and the other one absorbs. So when you weren't allowed to have boundaries or didn't know that you could have them in the first place. And let's also name this. Energetic cords aren't always mutual. Just because you feel a deep cosmic connection doesn't mean that the other person did. And that's where things get spicy. So you might be doing cord cutting rituals and sobbing under the moon and journaling your way through it, and meanwhile they're just out there living unbothered. Why is this? Well, because your cord is active on your side. They might have unplugged already. And that doesn't make your connection less valid, but it does mean that healing isn't always symmetrical. And no, unfortunately, you can't force someone else to cut their cord to you, but you can tend to your own side of the plug. So one of the biggest misconceptions about cord cutting is that it's a single moment. It's like one ritual or one prayer or one firm decision. But cords aren't scissors. They're not like one and done. They're sticky, especially if trauma is involved, because there's layers. You might cut a surface cord only to find another one hiding beneath it, maybe from childhood, maybe ancestral, maybe it's karmic. And that's why cord cutting is less about the drama and more about the devotion. It's a practice, not a purge. And let's not forget, our culture romanticizes enmeshment. So we're taught to fuse ourselves with others and to lose our sense of self in the name of love or loyalty or belonging. So when we started talking about cords, people get uncomfortable. They're like, but I love them. Or, but it's family. Yes. And love isn't ownership. Family isn't entitlement, and no one is entitled to your life force. So, if you're feeling tired for no reason, or if your dreams are crowded with ghosts, or if you're looping through the same thoughts or emotions about somebody or something long gone, it might be time to check your energetic Wi-Fi and just see who's still logged in and who's still streaming your bandwidth, because your energy is sacred. And if you wouldn't let somebody steal your Netflix password, why are you giving them access to your soul? So, in this episode, we're not going to talk just about how to cut a cord. We're going to talk about how to do it safely and intentionally and with a full nervous system support so that you don't fry your inner circuitry trying to be spiritually free. But we're going to unpack how those cords get formed in the first place, especially those sticky parasitic ones. All right, let's talk about why we stay entangled with people who absolutely do not deserve season passes to our energy field. Why can we know on every logical and adult and spiritually aware level that somebody or something is not good for us, but we still feel like we're dying when we're trying to walk away? Why those red flags look like carnival lights when we are deep in it, and why detachment feels like abandonment. And let me tell you, the short answer to all of this is trauma bonding. Trauma bonding isn't just some buzzword for a TikTok therapist or like a pop psychology reel. It is a biological and psychological phenomenon where intense emotional experiences, especially ones that cycle between pain and relief, they wire us to stay connected to unsafe people. So the brain, in its desperate attempt to make sense of chaos, starts to equate love with adrenaline and with survival and with the come here, go away dance. And once that loop is in place, you're hooked. And it's not by choice, but by chemistry. So here's what's happening under the hood. Every time a person creates a spike in your emotional landscape, whether it's through gaslighting or breadcrumbing or rescuing or ghosting or love bombing or just a full-blown emotional whiplash, your brain releases a cocktail of chemicals: dopamine, cortisol, and sometimes even oxytocin. And dopamine keeps you chasing that high. Cortisol keeps you in a state of hypervigilance, and oxytocin, which is that sneaky little bonding hormone, gets released not just during sex or cuddle time, but during any intense emotional moment. Even fights, even crying on the bathroom floor after they left again. And the body doesn't know the difference between passion and panic. It just knows that something intense is happening and that it starts to build a cord around it. And in attachment wounding, especially for those of us with anxious or avoidant or disorganized styles, we start confusing survival with safety. And we start thinking, if I can just heal them, they'll stop hurting me. Or if I love them hard enough, they're going to change. And let me tell you, that's not love. That is a trauma loop masquerading as a spiritual mission. And then this is where that whole energy vampire slithers in. They don't always look like villains. A lot of times they're charming, wounded souls who make you feel chosen and seen and needed. And sometimes they're family members who trained you to believe that love means martyrdom. And sometimes they're your best friend from college who calls you every time she's in a crisis, but disappears the moment you need support. You know what I'm talking about. They feed off your energy, and not always maliciously, because they just never learned how to regulate themselves. and so they plug into you. And if you're an empath or a healer or a people pleaser in recovery, then you're basically a 5-star buffet. And energetically, what's happening is this. Every time you give your attention or your emotional bandwidth or your psychic labor, especially when it's not reciprocated, a thread is being woven. And if you're not clearing it, it becomes a cord. A full-on energetic hose from your field into theirs. And guess what? They're not returning the favor. You're leaking life force while they recharge. And that fatigue that you feel, that's not just burnout. That is a soul level depletion. And the illusion of attachment is where things get especially tricky. Because when you've been bonded through trauma or manipulation or overgiving, your ego will create stories to justify the connection. Like, we've been through so much together. Or they're not always like this. Or, but I see so much potential. Let me tell you something, dude. Potential does not pay your energetic rent. So what you're dealing with is a cord that has become an identity. And untangling from that will feel like a death because in a way it is. And if we're talking about legacy cords or like ancestral ones, oh God, those patterns are passed down like heirlooms, like the ones where women stay small to be safe, or where men suppress feelings to survive, or where love means sacrifice and silence. So if you're the cycle breaker in your family, the black sheep, the one who always felt off, chances are you are here to sever some of those intergenerational cords too. Which means not just healing your own loops, but then resisting the pull to reenact what was modeled. And this is sacred work, and it is exhausting work. But my God, is it worth it? And so if you've ever asked yourself, why can't I let go? Or why do I keep attracting the same person in different bodies? The answer isn't that you're broken. It's just that you're bonded. Energetically and neurologically and spiritually, and unless we interrupt the pattern through nervous system repair, through conscious awareness, and sometimes literal cord cutting rituals, we're just going to keep calling it in. We think it's fate when really it's just familiar. This episode is brought to you in part by one of my most favorite humans on this spinning planet, Morgan Garza, and her book Soul Magic. If you've ever felt like your power was just waiting beneath the surface, or like there's something ancient and electric inside of you ready to be reclaimed, then this is the book that helps you remember. Soul Magic is not just a read, it is a summoning. It's filled with rituals and stories and the kind of grounded spiritual wisdom that doesn't talk at you, it talks with you. Morgan writes like a soul sister, a cosmic cheerleader, and a priestess all rolled into one. And it's a must-have for anyone on the path of awakening, reclaiming. So grab your copy at morgangarza.com or wherever books are sold, or bless someone else's journey and gift it. Because real magic's meant to be shared. That's Soul Magic by Morgan Garza. You'll feel it in your bones. All right, so you did the thing. You saged your phone, you blocked the X, you burned the letter, and you chanted the chant, and then you took a salt bath, and you might have even cried your face off under a full moon. And yet, instead of feeling light and free and empowered, your chest is tight and your stomach's in knots and your whole body feels like it's low-key screaming. And you're not losing it. You're just having a nervous system response. And it's actually a sign that the cord cutting worked. So let's break this all the way down. Your nervous system, that beautifully complex web of communication running through your brain and your spinal cord and every fucking cell of your body, was trained by your attachments. It doesn't just respond to your environment. It adapts to what it thinks you need to survive. And if you have been corded in a relationship, especially one built on trauma bonding or fawning or enmeshment, your nervous system has mapped safety onto the very thing that's hurting you. When you cut the cord, you're essentially disrupting that map. You're saying, we're not doing this anymore. And then your system panics because it thinks you just pulled the plug on your lifeline. And then this is where things get wild. You can feel relieved and terrified at the same time. You can feel proud of yourself and still want to text them. You can know it was the right decision and still feel like you're grieving a death because energetically you are. The cord it was like an energetic organ. It had weight and it had shape and it pulsed with psychic information. And when it's gone, your body notices the absence. And this is especially true if the cord that you cut was regulating your nervous system in some distorted way. So maybe the relationship was chaotic, but it made you feel something. Or maybe the job was toxic, but it gave you structure. Or maybe the friendship was draining, but it filled a gap where loneliness lived. So when you cut those cords, you remove the stimuli, and then your system goes, wait, where did my predictable chaos go? I don't know how to feel safe in the quiet. And that's not sabotage. It is truly survival instinct. The sympathetic branch of your nervous system, the one that's responsible for fight or flight, lights up when it senses change, especially change tied to attachment. And the parasympathetic system, the rest and digest part, doesn't always come online right away, especially if you've been running on high alert for years. So what happens? You feel jittery or numb or anxious or empty or like you're crawling out of your skin. And it's not because you made a mistake, but because you made a shift. And here's the real kicker. If your cord was tied to a relationship that had spiritual or karmic weight, the severing can trigger what feels like a psychic withdrawal. You might dream of them. You might hear their voice. You might feel like they're reaching out energetically, and that's not your imagination. That is called quantum echo. The field is recalibrating, and in that recalibration, your nervous system is being asked to learn something brand new, and that is how to self-regulate without the cord. So for those of us who are raised to fawn, to appease and to merge and to anticipate everybody else's needs, cutting cords can quite honestly feel violent, even if we're the ones doing the cutting. Because there's a primal fear of being bad or being abandoned or being alone. And we might feel guilt or shame or even nausea. Again, this is the body processing loss. It is the physiological detox from entangled energy. And just like any detox, it can feel worse before it gets better. So, how do we hold ourselves through this? Well, first of all, we have to stop expecting to feel amazing right away. We need to stop thinking that healing should feel like a montage with like triumphant music or something, because sometimes it just feels like sobbing into your steering wheel. And that's a part of it. And let it be part of it. And then second, we tend to the body, not just the spirit. This is the time for nervous system nourishment. This is your grounding and your breath work and your cold showers and your walking barefoot on the earth. Touching your skin and reminding yourself that you are safe and you are here and you are real. Because if your body doesn't feel safe, no amount of energetic clearing will hold. We regulate first and then we rise. And then third, we let that grief be sacred. You didn't just lose a person or a pattern. You lost a version of yourself that was hooked into that connection. And while that version might have been in pain, he or she was also trying their damn best to stay alive, and mourn them and thank them, and then remind your body that we don't need to stay attached to the pain to be safe. Because here's the truth nobody tells you in a cord cutting TikTok. When you pull your energy back from places it doesn't belong, your nervous system has to learn how to hold all that space. And at first, it might feel like too much. But that space is where your power lives. That space is where your new timelines and your aligned people and your quantum upgrades have room to land. And so, if you're in the thick of it, if you're shaking and spiraling and second guessing, just pause and breathe and put a hand on your heart and remind your system, I am not dying. I am healing. And yeah, sometimes those will actually feel like the same thing at first. All right, so we talked about what cords are and how they form and why cutting them can feel like a damn identity crisis. But before you go full scorched earth and start energetically ghosting your entire contact list, let's pump the brakes really quick, because you need to know that not every cord is bad. Some are sacred, some are just outdated, and some are like spiritual malware, like some sneaky little program running in the background. But let's start here. Energetic cords are neutral. They're just simply evidence of a connection. And it's the quality of that connection, that intention behind it, and the energy that it carries, and the patterns that it feeds that determine whether that cord is nourishing, neutral, or parasitic. And if we're being honest, sometimes a single cord can shift categories over time. That once sacred soul bond might start feeling like an energetic ankle weight. That passionate karmic flame might start flickering into codependence. Or that best friend of 20 years who was once your lifeline might now feel like an emotional landmine. And that's not betrayal, it's evolution. So by discerning whether to cut or to unplug or to update a cord takes a nervous system regulation and spiritual maturity. Because here's the trap. Many of us try to cut cords reactively, out of rage, out of desperation, out of this unhealed need to make somebody feel how much they hurt us. And that's not cord cutting. That's energetic retaliation. What we want to do instead is pause and then regulate and then feel into the nature of the cord itself. And so you ask yourself, does the connection drain me or restore me? Is it wrapped in obligation, fear, or guilt? Am I able to be my full, free self in this dynamic? Or am I staying out of habit or duty? And this is especially important when we're dealing with legacy cords, which are the ones, connected to family and culture and religion. These are rarely cut out in one clean slice. They require gentleness and reverence and strategy, because some of those cords aren't just attached to people. They're attached to your identity. And cutting them too abruptly can destabilize your nervous system and leave you floating in limbo, not knowing who you are without that old pattern. And this is why we sometimes unplug rather than delete. This is why we update rather than destroy. Think of it like a computer system. If an app that you have used for years suddenly starts glitching, you don't necessarily delete it immediately. You check for updates. You clear the cache. You see if things need to be adjusted or whatnot. And sometimes, you do realize that the app is now spyware and it needs to be thrown in the trash. But the point is that not every disruption means destruction. Some cords can be restructured into healthier energetic agreements with, clear boundaries and fresh communication. And others just need to be unplugged with gratitude and love. And the truly toxic ones, delete, block, and banish, and then don't forget to fucking salt the earth behind you. But let's talk about the spiritual malware for a sec. These are the cords that look innocent on the surface, but are actually running subconscious programs that keep you small and stuck or in a cycle. Like a parent who, constantly reminds you of everything they sacrificed while simultaneously draining your will to live. That's malware. Or a friend who only reaches out in crisis, and every time you talk, you feel like you aged a decade. Also malware. Or an ex who still checks in randomly just to stir the pot, even though you have blocked them energetically 1,000 times. Also malware. And these cords are insidious because they masquerade as love and as duty and as connection. But underneath, they carry guilt and shame and energetic theft. Spiritually, these cords often come from unspoken contracts, like the kind formed in childhood or past lives or even ancestral trauma. Like, I'll be the fixer, I'll carry the pain, or I'll sacrifice my truth for connection. And then we begin to awaken, and we realize that these contracts are no longer aligned. But ending them isn't about hate, it's about sovereignty. And you don't have to make somebody a villain to reclaim your energy, you just have to stop being the host. But on the flip side, some cords are worthy of preservation, and maybe they just have updates. And these are like your soul family connections, or the ones with mutual growth and respect and real love. And maybe there's a little static, and maybe you just need a little firmware upgrade. But those cords still feel like home even when they challenge you. And they don't feed off of you, they feed you. And that is how you know. And there's you. The cord plugged into your past self, to your old identities, and to the version of you that clung to people just to feel loved. And that cord often gets overlooked, but it's one of the most powerful ones that you can shift. And not by cutting it, but by honoring it, by saying, thank you for surviving. But now I'm going to choose a different frequency. So in the end, the core discernment is basically just spiritual hygiene. It's not about judgment, it's just energetic integrity. Who gets access to you? Who gets to plug into your field? Who's aligned with you now? Because your energy isn't just sacred, it is a portal, and portals need guardians. This episode is supported in part by Sage App, aka the app that's basically a metaphysical multivitamin. It's like having a spiritual sanctuary in your pocket minus the incense smoke in your purse. It's also where I host my new moon manifestation clubs, which, if you know, we go deep. So if you're ready to stop doom scrolling and start soul scrolling, download Sage in the App Store or Google Play and then step into a more intentional, magical version of your day. That's SAGED, like Sage, but with an app. Back to the episode. Let's be real. Most people approach cord cutting like they're casting a damn exorcism. Full moon? Check. Black candle? Check. Dramatic music? 5 tears and a letter that you dramatically burn? Check, check, check. And look, if that works for you, I love that for you. But here's the deal. You can't bypass your biology with a bundle of sage. Ritual is powerful, yes, but if your nervous system is still stuck in a trauma loop, all the ceremonial scissors in the world will not help you stay free. So, how do we actually cut cords without frying our circuits or blowing up everything around us? Well, we start with what nobody wants to talk about, and that's slowness. Because cord cutting isn't just a moment. It is a process of energetic repatterning. And think of it like untangling a necklace chain that's been knotted for years. And if you yank it too hard, you're going to break it in all the wrong places. But if you're gentle and you take care with presence, you release that snarl and you get to keep your gold. So step 1 is always regulation. Your nervous system has to feel safe enough to let go. So before you reach for the salt, reach for your breath. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 4, and exhale through your mouth for 8. And then this will down-regulate the sympathetic nervous system and then tell your body, hey, we're safe now. And then you do it again. And then you do it one more time. Because no cord cutting is going to stick in your body if you're still bracing for that abandonment or loss. And then bring in your body. We store so many cords in somatic memory, especially in the solar plexus and the heart and the throat and the womb. And that, tight chest or that lump in your throat or that knot in your gut, none of that is random. That's all energetic signature. So whenever you feel that tightness, try placing your hand on the area where you feel the cord the most, and then speak directly to it, like out loud. Something along the lines of, I see you, and I honor why you're here, and I release what no longer belongs to me. And this is part of the nervous system attunement, part of that psychic hygiene, and so fully empowering. And then you get to the ritual piece. Keep it simple. You don't need 14 herbs and a ceremonial dagger, unless you want it, which in that case, bless, you can get it from the sage shop. You do need, however, intention and presence and a way to mark the release. So, sticking with the classic, write a person's name or pattern's name on a small piece of paper. Speak your truth over it, over what the cord taught you and what you're releasing and then what you're reclaiming, and then burn it. And as the paper turns to ash, visualize that cord dissolving. And it's not violent, but almost like an umbilical cord that has completed its purpose. No shame, no hate, and just release. And then don't stop there. Follow your ritual with somatic integration. because cord cutting is disorienting. You need to then ground back into your body. So move and dance and shake and cry and take a cold shower, go work out, do yoga, whatever it is that you do, eat something warm and nourishing, whatever it is, make it bring you peace and back to home in your physical self. Because cords don't just cut, they ripple. And you want your system to know, yeah, that shift happened and we survived it. And then set boundaries afterward. Cords are only going to regrow if we re-engage with that old pattern. And it doesn't mean you have to ghost everyone. It just means that you honor your nervous system's new boundaries. So if someone tries to rehook you, then pause and breathe and respond from your now, not your past. Because you don't owe anybody access just because you used to give it. Energetic hygiene is an ongoing practice. It's just like brushing your teeth or locking your doors. Clear your field regularly. Take the salt baths. Smudge your space. Use sound. Most of all, though, check in with your body. Because your body will always tell you if a cord is forming or reattaching. It'll respond by tightness or dread or a weird gut feeling, and listen to it. Cord cutting is not about hating anybody. It's not about spiritual superiority or bypassing grief. It's just about reclaiming your energy and your sovereignty and your life force, and then doing it in a way that doesn't cause more trauma than the cord. You're not here to be a dumping ground for other people's projections. You're not here to carry pain as proof of your love. You are here to shine and to rise and to walk forward in your truth, unhooked and unburdened and utterly sovereign. So whether you're cutting cords to your ex or your mom or your old identity or just the version of you that kept saying yes when your soul screamed no, do it with compassion. Do it with presence. And do it knowing that this isn't the end of something. It's just the return of you. If you loved this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a glowing review. It helps more beautiful souls like you find this space. Because your words matter, your energy ripples, and every review is like a little spell of support for the Synaptic Soul mission. So until next time, stay curious, stay cosmic, and keep waking the F up.